sight singing is sometimes a scary thing. Lots of people are terrified of being given a piece of music, never having seen it before, and having to sing it perfectly the first time without rehearsal. But the thing is that it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be a mystery. You just have to follow some simple steps before you actually go into it to just sort of set yourself up for success. So I'm just going to take you through an example of how I would sight sing a little excerpt here like you see on the screen, okay? So the first thing that you want to do when you have a new piece put in front of you that you have to sight sing is you want to look at the key signature, all right? So in this piece, you see that the key signature shows us that there is one flat. That flat is B flat, okay? Now, what we know about key signatures is that when you're looking at a key signature, you could either be looking at a major key or a minor key. Now, if it were a minor key, we would have a tendency to see several accidentals, okay? Accidentals like raising the 7th degree of that scale up 1/2 step, okay? But in this particular piece, as we sort of scan through this piece, we don't really see any accidentals. So as we look at this key signature could either be F major, because we know F major has one flat, or it can be D minor, which is the relative minor to F major, okay? So let's just sort of take a skim at it and see, okay, F major, all right, the first note is F, okay? That is not necessarily a hard and fast rule that every piece starts on do of the key that you're singing in, but it helps our detective work here. Let's skim to the last note and see what the last note of the piece is. It's F, okay? Chances are we're looking at F major here. Now, if it were in D minor, we would probably be seeing some C sharps in the music because C sharp is the raised 7th degree of the minor scale. But as we're looking at this, we don't see any C sharps. So we are looking at a piece in F major. All right, so that's pretty easy. All right, so F major, that's great. The next thing that we want to look at is we want to look at the time signature. All right, so we're looking at this piece and we see that this piece is in 3/4 time. So that means there are 3 beats in each measure and the quarter note will get 1 beat. Okay, so as we're counting this out, we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, okay, so we figured out the key signature, we figured out the time signature. Now what we want to do is we sort of want to scan through and see if there are going to be any curveballs in this example for your sight reading. Now when I say curveballs, that's a very general term. It could mean anything, but essentially what I'm talking about melodically is, are there any skips or leaps in this melody that might trip us up, okay? Because we know that in sight singing, if everything is stepwise, that's pretty easy to follow. But if there are skips and steps, sometimes those are harder to negotiate when you don't have a piano or another instrument helping you. So what you want to do is you want to determine if there are any steps or skips, and you want to figure those steps or skips out before you start to sing, okay? And when you sing, you want to sing with solfeggio, okay? Because the solfeggio is the way that you can negotiate between each pitch in a kinesthetic way that will help you determine where these pitches are. So as I'm looking at this piece, in the first measure, there are no steps or skips. We are just doing, or no skips or leaps, sorry. We are just doing stepwise, okay? So we go from do, up to re, up to mi, back down to re, back down to do, down to ti, back up to do. Okay, so everything so far has been steps. So that's pretty easy, thank goodness. We can negotiate steps pretty easy. But then, in the third measure between the first and the second note, we see that there is a skip, meaning that we're going from one note, skipping the adjacent note, to the next note. So in this case, in the first note in the third measure is do. The second note of the third measure is mi. So that means that we're going to be skipping re, okay? So let's figure that out first, okay? So if this is do, what we want to do is we want to sing do, re, mi so that we can really hear in our ear and in our voice what it sounds like to go up stepwise up to mi. Do, re, mi. Okay? So now we know mi, there's mi, do, there's do. So now just practice going from do, re, mi. Now skip re. Do, mi. All right, so now we've figured out that skip. Do, mi, do. All right. So as we go on, we see that after we hit that mi, for the next measure and a half, again, we're just doing steps. So that makes it nice and easy. But now look at the fifth measure. Between the first note and the second note, we have a leap, okay? So a leap means that we're going to be skipping over more than one note, okay? So we know that that first note is do, all right? So now what we have to do is we have to figure out where this next note is, all right? So if we just count up from space to line to space to line to space, we will determine that this note after do is 5 notes away. So that would be do, re, mi, fa, sol. So this leap is going from do to sol, all right? So let's figure out how to get there just going up stepwise. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. All right, so let's do that again. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. All right, so you can figure out how to get from do to sol stepwise. Now what you need to do is we'll sing do loud, we'll sing sol loud, we'll sing the other notes in between a little softer. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Go back down to do. Do, now go up to sol. Sol, go down to do. Do, go up to sol. Sol. All right, so now we figured out that leap. Do, sol, do. Okay, but what happens after that? Now after that we go from sol, we skip down to the next note, which is mi. So what we have to do is we have to go from sol, fa, mi, sol, fa, mi. Let's do that again. Sol, fa, mi. So now let's go from sol to mi. Sol, mi. All right, so now we know how to get from sol to mi. Now let's go back to the beginning of this measure. Where we started on do, we go to sol, and then we go to mi. do, sol, mi. All right, so there we have figured out a big leap and followed by a skip. All right, so we're prepared for that. That's great, okay? Then we have another stepwise, then we have another skip. Now this time what we're doing is we start on G, which in this key is re, okay? So where's our do? Do you remember where do is? Do, there's do. All right, so if that's do, do, re, there's re. All right, so from re, we're skipping mi and going to fa. So re, mi, fa. Okay, let's go back to re. Re, mi, fa. So re again. Re, fa, re. Okay? So now you know how to get from re to fa back down to re. The next measure we go down to do again. We have another skip. Do, we know this skip. Mi, then re. Now going from re, we have another skip. This time we're going to skip down to T. Re, do, T. So we have to skip do. Re, do, T. Re, T. And then we step up to do. Do. All right? So there we have figured out what our curveballs are, okay? Where our skips are, where our leaps are, and we figured them out before we even started singing the whole thing. All right, so we know what's coming up. We know how we can anticipate when we have some of those tricky leaps, okay? Now we need to do the same sort of analysis to figure out, are there any tricky rhythms? Okay, so in this you see that there are quarter notes and half notes. Okay, those are easy. We can figure out quarter notes and half notes really nicely. But you also see that there are eighth notes in the second measure, and you see there is a dotted eighth note followed by a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note in the third measure. Okay? So when there are eighth notes, that means that what we have to do is we have to subdivide the beat. So what that means is that if the beat is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, what subdividing the beat means is that we are actually going to divide each one of those beats into 2 equal parts. And the second equal part is always going to get the syllable and. All right? So subdividing the beat would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. So what that means is that every time I'm singing a number, the beat, and an and, that is 2 eighth notes, or covering 1 full beat. All right? So as you see in this second measure, you have a half note followed by 2 eighth notes. So the half note is held through beat 1 and beat 2. The 2 eighth notes get 3 and. So what I want you to do is I want you to clap that rhythm just so you can get used to what the subdivision is going to sound like. All right? So here we go. If this is our beat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay? So that's how you subdivide the beat to accommodate the eighth notes. Now, in the next measure, we have a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note. Now, a dotted quarter note gets 1.5 beats. So that means that you will hold that dotted quarter note through 1 and the next half beat, which is 2. And then the 8th note after that comes in on and, the and of beat 2. So the dotted quarter note is 1 and 2. The next 8th note is and. Okay? So that the way that we're going to clap that beat is that we are going to hold through 1 and 2, and then the 8th note comes on that, on the and of beat 2. So here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and. There's our rhythm for the third measure. Okay? Again, 1 and 2 and 3 and. All right? Does that make sense? Okay, so as we're going along in the rest of the piece, skimming the rest of the piece, we see in the second to last measure, we've got 2 more 8th notes, then another dotted quarter note followed by an 8th note. So the 2 8th notes are 1 and, the dotted quarter note is 2 and 3, then the 8th note after that is and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay? Now, when you are deciding what tempo you want to sight sing any piece in it, what you want to do is you always want to choose a tempo at which you can sing the smallest notes as quickly as possible without getting tripped up. Meaning that your tempo is going to be determined by how fast you can sing the shortest notes. And in this case, the shortest notes are 8th notes. So if you can only sing your 8th notes as 1 and 2 and, then that's how fast you need to start, which means that this piece will start, the tempo of this piece will be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. Okay? Now that's pretty slow, but no worries, nobody's judging you. Okay? If you need to take it that slow, that's totally fine. If you feel confident doing 8th notes a little faster than that, then that's great. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're singing the 8th notes as quickly as you feel comfortable doing it, and then count off that tempo and start the piece at that tempo. All right? Okay. The last thing that I want to tell you when you are sight singing is that in order to practice sight singing, what you want to do is you want to take these little exercises and you want to do this analysis and then start at the beginning and go to the end without stopping. Okay? Now, I know that that goes against every fiber of your being, especially if you're a perfectionist, okay? You make a mistake and you think, oh my goodness, I need to fix that. But the thing is that, yeah, you need to fix it, but you don't fix it the first time that you're sight singing it. What you want to do is you want to sing it all the way straight through without stopping so that you get used to looking ahead and trying to negotiate what's coming up and getting your voice and your body to react as quickly as possible. And then staying on track even if you make a mistake. Here's the trick. What you need to do is you always need to remember where do is. If you mess up royally and you totally get off track, but you see in the next measure that do is coming up, remember where do is in your ear and sing do and you'll immediately be back on track, okay? And then once you get to the end of the piece or the exercise, you then go back and think, okay, where did I screw up? And figure out, okay, why did I screw that up? Oh, I screwed that up because I messed up a syllable, or I screwed that up because I missed that leap, or I screwed that up, whatever, okay? So by just sight singing all the way straight through, then what happens is that you are figuring out how to get from beginning to end and keep on track. And then you go back and analyze what you did wrong so that the next time that you analyze a new piece or you start to sing a new piece, what's going to happen is that you are going to recognize, last time I didn't sing do to so correctly. So let me just figure that out. How can I find that do to so? All right? Okay, let's sight sing this piece together. So the thing is that every time you sight sing a piece, what I want you to do first is I want you to sing the scale with solfege and the hand signals, if you can, of the piece before you even start. And what that's going to do is that is going to get your ear used to what key it is that you're singing in, okay? And gets your hands moving to where it is that you need to say, that you need to move to each pitch. All right? So we're going to sing an F major scale here. I'm going to sing it down the octave so I don't have to sing a high F. Okay? So starting here, do. All right? So here we go. Here is an F major scale. We're going to go up and down. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. All right? Okay, it's time to sight sing this thing. All right, so I've never seen this piece. I've totally telling you, I've never seen this little excerpt before. All right, so I am going to be sight singing it right along with you. Okay, so let's see how I do. All right, so here's our do. And then what I would also do is not only sing the scale, but also sing the tonic triad, which is do, mi, sol, mi, do. So do, mi, sol, mi, do. All right, here we go. So here's our tempo. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Do, re, mi, re, do, ti, do, mi, re, do, ti, do, sol, mi, re, fa, re, do, mi, re, ti, do. How'd you do? Pretty good? All right, fantastic. So if you take those steps, then you will find that sight singing an excerpt becomes a lot easier. There's not a whole lot of mystery to it, okay? You take all the mystery out of it. Now, if some of the things that I taught you today about hand signals, about steps and leaps and singing in major keys, minor keys, or something is nothing that you are terribly familiar with, but you want to know more, I got you covered, because I have created a course called Sight Singing Made Simple. And I take you through 20 video lessons that gives you soup to nuts everything that you need to know about how to sight sing effectively. So check that out at the link in the comments below this video and get sight singing.